What's up, and welcome in to Under the Hood with Jonathan Hood. Thanks so much for downloading the podcast and checking us out on YouTube, youtube.com. Look for Under the Hood with Jonathan Hood. Please like, share, subscribe, and comment to everything we do at Under the Hood with Jonathan Hood, presented to you by the Advantage Auto Group. Let me save you some time. If you're shopping for a car and already bracing yourself for the process, don't. Just start with the Advantage Dealer Group: Toyota, Chevy, Acura, Cadillac, Buick, GMC. They got all the brands. You know what they don't have? They don't have the nonsense. They no drawn out negotiations, no surprises. When the paperwork shows up, just clear numbers, honest conversations, and people who understand that you got things to do. Buying a car shouldn't feel like breaking down X's and O's. Wherever you are in Chicagoland, make it easy on yourself. Find your advantage at Advantage Dealer Group. You know why we're on right now live here on a Monday is because there is changes in the front office for the Chicago Bulls. The announcement came down about a half hour ago as we talk about this live that the Chicago Bulls have fired Arturas Karnisovas and Marc Eversley, the EVP and the GM of the Chicago Bulls. Karnisovas was hired in 2020 to lead the Bulls operations, and Eversley was hired as well. Team record under his leadership, 224 and 254. One playoff appearance during that span. I want you to give your comments about what you think of what the Bulls have done here. Fired Arturas Karnisovas and Marc Eversley here today before the regular season ends. Let me just tell you, for you, the Chicago Bulls fan, this is a celebration. If you're a Chicago sports fan, it's a celebration. It's because many of you on social media, many of you have talked about this for a long period of time, that it's time for a change. It's time for something new with the Chicago Bulls. And because of your social media, because you're on ESPN 1000, and because you talk about this all the time, you were able to make this move. Along with Michael Reinsdorf, of course, because he is the head of the Chicago Bulls. But the point is, though, you push and you push and you push, and things happen. Arturas Karnisovas and Marc Eversley deserve to be fired, not just today, but last year or the year before. That's how bad things have been for the Chicago Bulls. It's so funny. I'm looking at my notes from this morning's Cap and J Hood morning show. Write everything on the yellow pad or use my phone. And I wrote down and I had calculated 254 losses under the management of our Arturas Karnisovas and Marc Eversley. And that's 6 seasons and one playoff appearance. Never mind about the play-ins. The one playoff appearance in 6 seasons tell you all you need to know about the Chicago Bulls. But if you read Joe Cowley from the Chicago Sun-Times, Joe Cowley says that the reason why things changed is because, well, they were embarrassed by the Jaden Ivey story, of all things. So never mind about these two not doing their job properly, Arturas Karnisovas and Marc Eversley. Oh, no. The Jaden Ivey was a straw too far. It was too much for the Chicago Bulls, and so they made the change. You make the change because you are a non-playoff team and not a threat to anyone in the NBA. I told the story to you many times Under the Hood that there's people in front offices around the NBA, my connections with the NBA over the years, where someone texts me or calls me and say, "What are you guys doing?" And I say, "Excuse me?" They say, "What are you guys doing?" I said, "You talking about the Chicago Bulls?" I said, "I have no idea what the Bulls are doing." When people that are way more experienced in front offices, way more learned about the NBA say, "Hey, what are you guys doing?" You're asking me. I don't know what they're doing, and they didn't know what they were doing. So when people are asking, like, how come the Bulls won't pick up the phone and make deals that make sense, meaning that you go backwards to take 2 steps forward where you are tanking or you're trying to add on, why is this happening? And I would say, I don't know why this is happening outside of ineptitude. And so today is a banner day for you, the Bulls fan. It's a big day because that means change. Now, when you think about how you've missed the postseason 4 straight seasons, and Arturas Karnisovas, what I always remember about this guy is we preach patience with the teams. We preach patience with the fans. We want to make sure that the fans know that we are working hard to try to get to the next level. You're asking for patience when you don't even pick up the phone for 3 seasons to make a deal. That is a fact. Not even picking up the phone to be able to make the team better for 3 seasons. They always preach patience. They just feel like that they had continuity, and they were not asking for patience from the fans. They were asking for patience from the front office, and they have plenty of it, but it's just way too long for this. So it's funny because people say, well, what was a better front office? Is it this group where Karnisovas and Eversley, or was it this group with Gar Foreman and John Paxson? By the way, Sam Smith was not part of that front office, even though some of you people think that maybe that was the case. He was not part of the front office, even though he's pictured here on YouTube. But the point is that it's overdue for change. So my choice would be Bob Myers to be the new executive vice president of basketball operations for the Chicago Bulls, because he did it with the Golden State Warriors. And he's a free agent right now. He's out of basketball. He did television for a year after all that success with the Golden State Warriors. Smart enough to leave the Golden State Warriors, knowing that they were on the decline. No more Klay Thompson. Steph Curry, still a fine player. Draymond Green's on that team as well. So he stepped away after all the success Golden State did TV, and now out of basketball. Someone should pick up the phone on the West Side and say, hey, Bob, what will it take? Can you just be able to take over our organization, and we'll step out of the way? You choose the head coach that you want and get us back to a championship level. To be mired with the Miami Heat in the play-in year in and year out was nonsense, absolute nonsense. But Michael Reinsdorf and Jerry Reinsdorf and their loyalty. Listen, I love loyalty, but not when fans are waiting to see playoff appearances. There's so much money that the Bulls make because of how many people turn the turnstiles at the United Center. It is amazing how much money that they make. And more times than not, you turn a Bulls game and it looks like this. It's a full house. People are going to the games, and I always wonder, like, why? Outside looking at the other team, what's the point? Because the Bulls don't have a product that you want to see ever on a nightly basis. And my frustration with Chicago is not necessarily about the players as much as it is the front office putting an inept product on the court, a team that can't compete every night. And so you see the crowd at the United Center, it's always full. And I'm saying, well, why? What's the point? I want a full crowd at the United Center. I want to go back to the games when I see a competitive product on the floor for the Chicago Bulls. In a league in which you have so many opportunities to get to the playoffs, you got play-ins and you've got these cups and all these tournaments and stuff. You have an opportunity to go down and get yourself a number 1 or number 2 pick in the draft and get yourself cleaned up as a team. And the Bulls can't do that. Can you imagine 4 seasons of no playoffs? It's just unbelievable what the Bulls have gotten away with. And then paying, players just to be able to just get out there and just to do some stuff here or there, but not necessarily winning basketball. You out there and bounce the basketball around, pass it around, put up some points. But as far as winning, it doesn't happen with the Chicago Bulls. So I'm just happy that things have changed over there as far as the front office is concerned. As Frank Hack says, he says, finally something has happened. And David Allen, who's always been there for me, says, can I state the obvious? It's about fucking time. I want to be optimistic, but until Reinsdorf family isn't in charge, I don't believe it's going to be any different. Well, here's the thing. If you don't shop at the top shelf to try to get the best general manager or the best head coach, I'm talking about the best of the best, then what's the point of ownership? Why own a team if you're always languishing in last place? Again, I have no problem with loyalty, but it's time for the Bulls to be able to get to the top. Ben Johnson for the Chicago Bears was a top shelf hire for them because they saw a guy that so many people wanted in the NFL, and the Bears got him. Kevin Warren, the same thing. They got Kevin Warren because they thought this guy here can build a stadium. At least that was the thought, right? But they hired him anyway because they thought that he could be able to build a stadium. I think it's always good to be able to shoot for the moon if you are in ownership, because what's the point of owning it? If you just bring in someone that's just in middle management like Karnisovas was with Denver, then what's the point? Because Karnisovas was the third man with the Denver Nuggets, and they pulled him out of some side office in Denver and made him the general manager for this team, generally managing this team into the ground. Marc Eversley had all these connections with shoe companies and Adidas and all that, and knew a lot of people. Did not move the meter, not once, Marc Eversley and Arturas Karnisovas. I mean, so it's time to do something different if you're the Chicago Bulls. I would get Bob Myers in here right away to be the general manager for the Chicago Bulls, the vice president of basketball operations. I certainly would do that. And so it's just, to me, a great day. But then the question is, what's next, right? I think we're all wondering what's next. Please put your comments in, your super chats, whatever you'd like here on Under the Hood with Jonathan Hood, because it's a breaking news edition of Under the Hood with Jonathan Hood, because Arturas Karnisovas and Marc Eversley have been let go. They've been fired. And I look at that 254 losses in the one playoff appearance in 6 seasons. I keep looking at that number that's on my pad here, and I just can't believe that an owner would say, yep, that's good enough. We'll just keep going in that same direction. At some point, the money is one thing, but the wins matter too. I could not walk into an owner's meeting or general manager's meeting. You know what the other general managers that win would say? They're like, well, here come the Bulls. They might be making a lot of money with attendance, but boy, they suck. I could not walk in that room. And guess what? You couldn't walk in that room either. If you already have generational wealth, if you're already paid because you're a general manager or because you are the president of the operations, the next thing to do is to be able to win. You get the job because you're trying to win. And Arturas Karnisovas and Marc Eversley never had a real plan to try to win. They were just there because the money was good. So you got the money. Okay, the Bulls are paying you. So now it's time to be able to make actual moves. And they were stuck in neutral or backwards the entire time that they were here with the Chicago Bulls. One playoff appearance. So I know that this angst is going to leave us, especially Chicago sports fans and Bulls fans, because now change is coming. But I'm here to tell you that if you're just going to get someone, again, in middle management or someone that's good for the foursome in golf, then you're really not having a commitment to winning. One of the things I've talked about for years, radio, YouTube, television, is that if you do not have a commitment to winning, then what's the point? You must have a commitment to winning. We're not in a small market where it doesn't matter. It does matter. When you go to the United Center for a concert or for a Bulls game or the Big Ten tournament, whatever, you know what you see up there? You see numbers that are retired, greats, and you see championships from the Blackhawks and from the Chicago Bulls. You see the all-time greats up there. And so when you go into the house that Jordan built, you expect for the Bulls to be competitive. And so I understand when David says, well, it's the ownership, so it's never going to change. Well, all I'm saying is that if you're Michael Reinsdorf, don't you just for once want to be able to say, you know what, I see what the Bears are doing. And I'm saying not saying the Bears are going to win the Super Bowl this year, but what I'm saying is that they made changes. You know why they made changes is because they got tired of spinning their wheels doing the same thing. When you spend money, look what happens. I'm sure that they told George McCaskey, they go, hey, look what happens, George, when you spend money as far as your coaching, as far as having a commitment to winning for your players. All of a sudden, you get to the playoffs and almost on the precipice of getting to the NFC Championship game. What happens when you spend money, when you have a commitment? You start to win all of a sudden. How about that? And so if you're the Bulls, you have to be the same thing. You have to do the same thing. You have to find the commitment to winning. You have to do that. And I just think that you shoot for the moon and go to the top. Now, let's talk about this aspect of it, please. And that is Billy Donovan, the head coach for the Bulls. Those 254 losses over 6 seasons, that's also on Billy Donovan's resume as well. I never thought that Billy Donovan would take the North Carolina job. Now, you want to know how desperate North Carolina basketball is? All the other college coaches said no, and they hired a longtime NBA coach, Michael Malone, to be the head coach of North Carolina. And I know that there's a lot of people in college circles. You know this, and I know this too. A lot of people in college circles said, boy, Billy, when he was coaching Florida, the Florida Gators, boy, he had that thing humming. They won a couple of championships. He needs to come back to college. And Billy Donovan really had no interest in coming back to college. But I think he wants another NBA job. I think he wants to get away from the Chicago Bulls. Now Billy comes to work and there's no front office. Now it's Billy Donovan. I know my partner David Kaplan says that Billy Donovan should be kicked upstairs, kind of like Brad Stevens, and generally manage the team. But I think Billy wants to coach. One thing Billy Donovan did not want to do is be part of a team that's tanking with no direction. That's why when we continue to see these stories about how Billy Donovan could be out at the end of the season, leave the organization, is because he wanted to know what the plan was. You just come to work and you just start getting, middle of the road, maybe bottom of the barrel basketball talent, and then you're not even bad enough to be able to get the number 1 pick. I mean, what's the point of coming to work when you have been with the ball club for 6 years and then there's really no direction? That's why Arturas Karnisovas and Marc Eversley were fired. But I never thought that Billy would take the North Carolina job, but he could take another NBA job. That would not surprise me. The best thing that AK and Eversley did is that they hired Billy Donovan because that was, at the time, from his time at Oklahoma City, was a top shelf hire. There was nothing wrong with that. But then what did you do? The Zach LaVine experiment, the DeMar DeRozan experiment. I mean, Vooch, there were some names there, but were there stars on the floor for 6 years? Were there all-stars, sure, but were there difference makers? Were they like top shelf guys? They were not. And that falls on the feet of Eversley and Karnisovas. If I'm Billy Donovan, after the season, I leave. And by the way, if you're a general manager, maybe you want something better than Billy Donovan as the head coach. Maybe you do. Maybe you have a different direction. I think Billy should just leave the organization. I do. Aging like a president. He's been here for 6 years. All this losing on his resume. He's a Hall of Famer. You can't touch him because he's a Hall of Famer. But seriously, what's the point of Billy Donovan staying with Chicago? I want it all cleaned out. I got 2/3 of it cleaned out. Now I want Billy Donovan to find another job someplace else. There's no reason for him to stay in Chicago. There's no reason for it. But I also want the Bulls in this big market to find a big market general manager to clean this thing up. That's what I want. And of course, it has to start with the draft as well. One thing for sure about the Bulls that's different than a lot of teams, the Bulls have a league high $65 million in cap space. $65 million in cap space. Okay. So what are you going to do with that? What's the new GM going to do about that? You can find a quality player to place with this young group and be able to start your trek going up instead of going sideways or going backwards. It's been sideways for a long time. $65 million in cap space, and they have a lottery pick coming up in the draft. That's why Arturas Karnisovas and Marc Eversley had to leave. You want those two to preside over that kind of money and a draft pick coming up, you know that they're going to F it up. It's exactly what's going to happen. Leave your comments about the Chicago Bulls. I see 60s kid says, hallelujah, he's happy. Absolutely. And that's right. Hey, Frank Hacks, make sure that you like, share, subscribe, and comment to everything we do on Under the Hood with Jonathan Hood. Yeah, it's a lot of people saying, hey, well, it's about time. Absolutely. Yes, Frank, he says, yeah, get Bob in here and get 2 gems in the first round. Yeah, figure out it. Find a way, And this one, because we just got through at Easter and Passover, on the 3rd day he rose again. It's funny that you use rose. Michael Paddock, 7619. On the 3rd day he rose again. He goes, and then Mark Warren, longtime guy here under the hood, says, thank you, Lord. Finally, change in the front office for the Chicago Bulls. Yeah, so Terrence checks in. He says, we want him to leave, get a real replacement. We have real no center or star power. No, I mean, Terrence is exactly right. The Chicago Bulls in this market in Chicago don't have a real cornerstone that they can go to. They got young pieces, sure. But it's about trying to elevate the Bulls. Listen, through the 6 titles in 8 years that the Bulls had with Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, that era, it was great. But it's time for a new championship era for the Chicago Bulls. But it starts by being able to develop young talent and then find difference makers for the organization. I'm not guaranteeing a championship as much as San Antonio and Oklahoma City and Detroit. Those teams are really playing well, and they might be playing well for a long time. It's time for the Bulls to get in that mix as well. Being toward the bottom, first of all, non-playoff team, non-play-in team, it's time for something new for the Chicago Bulls. And Terrence says that they could have had Zion, AD, Ja Morant, or Cat. Well, could you imagine, Terrence, if they had Zion Williamson with his medical issues, or Anthony Davis? Could you imagine him being a Chicago Bull with this medical staff? Or Ja Morant? Who's going to watch Ja Morant? He's supposed to be the veteran that's supposed to take care of the young guys. Ja Morant can't take care of himself. And then there's Cat. When you see Cat, it's when he takes off the warm-up, it doesn't say roar like a lion. It says, hello, kitty. Hello. That's Cat sometimes when he plays. But I just can't believe that the Bulls did it. They did it before the regular season ended. I'm glad that they did it. But these two here, Karnisovas and Eversley, they're paid, but they had no real plan to help the Chicago Bulls. And I think we should celebrate as we are presented by the Advantage Dealer Group. The Advantage Dealer Group, make sure you put in your Google machine. It's Advantage Dealer Group. There's an Advantage near you in Chicagoland area. Let's see what else you guys have to say about this. I'm overjoyed that the Bulls at least pulled the trigger. I just want to know what they're going to do with Billy Donovan. No extension. No, it's time for him to go too. I want a clean sweep and a new look for the Chicago Bulls, a championship look. If you're just joining us, Arturas Karnisovas and Marc Eversley fired by the Chicago Bulls. Yeah, it's just something, man. Yeah, I mean, Ness, it's a good day. That's why we're on live. You know, again, put your chats in, your super chats, whatever you'd like to do. Make sure you subscribe to Under the Hood with Jonathan Hood too, because it's just a really good day for Bulls fans. I know a lot of my Bulls fans friends hit me up as I record this that are happy, and they're sending me messages and people in the front office said, "Well, it's about time." In front offices around the NBA, I'm looking at right now. They're like, "Wow, you guys actually did it." Yeah, the Bulls actually did it. They say you guys like I'm in the front office. I'm not. I just live here. I live in Chicago. I've been watching this team all my life, and I'm just glad that the Bulls were able to pull the trigger and say, "Okay, enough's enough." But here's the thing. Really, from Joe Cowley, when he says that the Jaden Ivey story was one of the bigger reasons why that there was change. Let's talk about that for a second. So Jaden Ivey, it's a great conversation. It can be polarizing, especially if you listen and read what's been said about Jaden Ivey. Jaden Ivey, part of the Chicago Bulls. The story from Joe Cowley is that he made teammates and front office people uncomfortable, asking questions about their religion, their faith, their sexuality, stuff like that. And so if you're doing your due diligence and doing your homework, Arturas Karnisovas and Marc Eversley, maybe Jaden Ivey is not a fit for you. I mean, maybe for some teams and maybe not. But I'm saying that if there's a behavioral problem or something that makes maybe people on the team uncomfortable, including the reporters uncomfortable, then maybe he shouldn't be on your team. Now, you can give your side of the religious end of it, of what Jaden Ivey's talking about, and I've got nothing against his faith. Absolutely not. But I think that it all comes down to whether or not a player is part of your DNA. Do you feel like Jaden Ivey was too much for the Chicago Bulls or too much for a team? And if you heard this at Purdue, if you heard this from Detroit and other places, then maybe it's not a fit for you. And so he is let go for conduct detrimental to the team. I don't know if it was about the team as much as the organization. They felt like they could part with Jaden Ivey. And I guess for the Reinsdorfs, that was a bridge too far, a step too much for the Chicago Bulls. And so Art Carney and Marc Eversley have been let go. I don't know. I just know that, to me, before we get to Jaden Ivey, the amount of non-playoff teams, the amount of lack of talent is the reason why that Arturas Karnisovas and Marc Eversley were let go. I mean, if you're Michael Reinsdorf on the other side of the table and Art Carney says we preach patience, we are working on things, and it doesn't happen, you fire those guys. But you don't fire them today. You could have fired them last year, the year before that, because nothing was happening with the Chicago Bulls. When you're inactive in the front office and you don't pick up the phone at the trade deadline, it tells me that you're just taking advantage of the ownership and taking advantage of the fans. I am gobsmacked on fans that go to the United Center to watch the Bulls play with all this losing that they've done. I would not darken their door going to the United Center to see the Bulls play. And I got nothing against the players. They're just out there trying to do the best they can. I'm just saying, from an organizational standpoint, I'm just surprised that people say, yep, you know what we're going to do now, Nancy? We're going to go on over to the game. We're going to go check out the Bulls. You want to see the other team? I totally understand that. If it's a championship level team or a playoff team that's been playing well, I get that. But there's so many people that are into I guess the culture of the NBA, going to NBA games, just the whole thing, paying money, parking, you know, having their family go. I get it. I just couldn't do it, man. I found some place else to go. I go to college games before I go to the Bulls games because at least with college there is a commitment to winning with some of these teams in the Chicagoland area or in the state. But the Bulls, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Peter Burke is happy. He found out he found out he's happy because there is a change that has happened. Yes, it has happened. No more Arturas Karnisovas, no more Marc Eversley. They have been let go. So Peter Burke has found out that that they are gone. So he's very happy to see that. We're going to wrap up pretty soon here. I just want to just reach out to you guys with this live broadcast, this breaking news under the hood. Please, if you have not done so, please hit that like button. Please hit that subscribe button. So that way you can connect to everything that we do here on Under the Hood with Jonathan Hood. Plenty on the draft. That we'll be talking about the NFL draft, plenty on the NBA playoffs later on. We'll talk about the national championship game tomorrow. We'll get Tyler Aki on to talk about that. But yeah, there's it's a lot of people that and then yeah, 60s Kid says, I feel sorry for Adam Amin and Stacey King. They're paid, they're good. They have fun in the booth. They realize that the product is inferior, but they try to keep it entertaining. So I listen, there's nothing like Stacey King going crazy for a good Bulls team. But he's done a lot more teaching and scolding the Chicago Bulls for not doing what they need to do. Because Stacey's an old coach. That's my old for a lot of people don't know, that was my old radio teammate, Stacey King, when I was doing shows on Sirius XM NBA radio. We did shows four days a week for a while. So Stacey loves to teach the game. He's also a former head coach. So, but he's fine. He's paid, but I know he's disappointed in the Bulls. That is for sure. So yeah, this is without question a happy day. It's a happy day for the Chicago Bulls fan because there's change. Now the question is, what is the change? A message to Michael Reinsdorf. And by the way, let me just make sure I get you in too. Yeah, the team is unwatchable. Let me scroll up here. Just 1 second. Fat fingers. Yeah. Nez for Days says, yeah, the team is absolutely unwatchable. It is. It's hard to watch. For someone that likes basketball, college and pro, like there's other NBA games for me to watch, and it's hard to watch the Bulls because it's not competitive basketball. But just one message for Michael Reinsdorf. I want Michael Reinsdorf to understand something. That now that you've had the testicular fortitude to change the front office, no more Arturas Karnisovas and no more Marc Eversley, you have to be able to do the right thing. You have to understand that when you die or when your dad dies, you don't take the money with you. You don't line the casket with cash. I have been to funerals that have done that, but it doesn't mean that your funeral has to be that way. You don't have to hold on to the cash and get some guy that's learning on the job in Chicago. Find the experience. Arturas Karnisovas was not experienced as a executive vice president of basketball operations. He was not. Marc Eversley was not experienced in the position that he was in. Find the right candidate. Let that candidate find the right head coach or someone he can work with. Change your scouting department. You have to be tired of the embarrassment by now. No matter how much money you make, the bottom line is that there's nothing like winning, and nothing like winning in Chicago. You want people to stop talking about Michael Jordan, who never comes around anymore, Scottie Pippen, who doesn't come around anymore. You want to change the narrative? Win. You still want to go to restaurants and people talking about the 90s Bulls and talk about Derrick Rose and Tom Thibodeau, and you want to change up the narrative? Here's what you do. You find a way to get the right people. Never mind about the loyalty. Find the right people, and you know who the right people are. And if you don't, ask people around the league who the right people are to be able to run the Chicago Bulls. In a big market like this, it's embarrassing that the Chicago Bulls are in this position on April 6th, where you're firing Eversley and Karnisovas because they have no idea what they're doing. It's about time to make the Bulls fan proud. Cut the bullshit and do it right. Stop cutting corners and do it right. That's how you do business. Stop trying to do the things that, well, this will be good for now because Jerry will be happy because you're not paying through the nose for a head coach or for an executive vice president of basketball operations do it the right way. You can't die with the money. Do it the right way. In big markets like New York with the Knicks, the Lakers in Los Angeles, what's happening with the Houston Rockets, there's teams that are finding a ways to win the big markets and even the small markets like Oklahoma City and San Antonio. Look what the Pistons have done. The Pistons were at the bottom, the laughing stock, paying Monty Williams through the nose as a head coach, millions and millions of dollars. And now they're at the top of the heap in the East. And look where you are. So big markets and the smallest markets in the league are finding a way to win. And you're languishing with Sacramento, with Indiana, who's tanking, the Brooklyn Nets. Do you really want to be that? Is that your legacy, Michael Reinsdorf? I know you hide and you don't get out in front of the press very often. You don't do interviews. But here's the thing. You have a chance to be able to clean the slate of the nonsense. That's Billy Donovan as well. Clean out the 254 losses in one playoff appearance in 6 years and find the right people. Pay the price to be one of the best. Don't just stay in business just to say, oh, look at me. I'm an owner of a team. Who cares? You're the owner of a team. There's a lot of owners of teams. But be someone that can be a leader in Chicago. A leader. Not just a guy that just owns the team, but a leader. Because the way you're doing it is it's just bad. And I'll say something else, even a little bit more personal. You know, when it comes to your dad, Jerry Reinsdorf, you see what's happening with the White Sox. As he gets up in age, Jerry Reinsdorf, it is the equivalent of going to grandma's house. And you go to the house and you say, what's with all the cobwebs? What's with the newspapers stacked up? Why is the mail just sticking out of the mailbox? Grandma is older and doesn't care anymore. She can't care for her house like she did 10 years ago, 20 years ago, because she's up in age. And so someone has to come over there and clean it up. It's younger folk that have to come over and clean it up. Michael, do you want to be that at this age as a son of Jerry Reinsdorf? Are you that guy now that says, oh, the fans just keep coming to United Center. Oh, they have a good time with Benny the Bull, the popcorn trick and all that. Do you want to be that? Do you want to be like your dad in which you're just like, you go to the ballpark for Sox games, and then when the game starts, you leave and go back to the house? Is that who you are now, Michael Reinsdorf? Someone that just takes the fans for granted and says, oh, I'll just put some bullshit on the floor. They'll come. 18, 19,000. It's fine. It's not fine. It's about time for you to do something different than your father. And that is to put a product on the floor that we can all be proud of. If you're a Chicago Bulls fan, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's about time for you to be different than your dad. And that is to say, yeah, I'm getting the best of the best. I'm going for it because we have the money to do it. Look how many people come to this place just to be able to watch us lose by 20 every night. It's about time we do right by our young players that we have on our team, and we're going to develop, and we're going to have an attitude, and we're going to have a mission statement as a team. It's about time that Michael Reinsdorf puts on his big boy pants and stop following behind his dad and actually have his own vision of the Chicago Bulls. Not your dad's vision, your vision. If you're not embarrassed as one of the stewards of the Chicago Bulls, then you and your dad should get away from the Bulls and the Chicago White Sox. If you're not embarrassed by all that losing, 254 losses in one playoff appearance, and then before that, guard packs with that nonsense, it's about time for you to do what's right. And if you don't, then you're going to continue to get hammered by Chicago Bulls fans, and rightfully so. Finish up with your comments here on Under the Hood with Jonathan Hood, presented to you by the Advantage Dealer Group. Let's see what else we have here as we talk about these two, Arturas Karnisovas and Marc Eversley. And by the way, who was better, those two or these two, John Paxson and Gar Forman? It's so funny that I had a good relationship with Gar Foreman. I don't know if people know that. His wife would listen to me when I used to do Bulls Buzz. I used to do the post-game shows after every Bulls game, like the post show. Steve Cashel would be on after the Bulls game. It's gonna be great. I'm Steve Cashel. Great guy, right? And then I'd come on with what I would consider the real post game on the Bulls network and just hammer the Bulls when they were not playing well and praise them when they did play well. And his wife, Gar's wife, would listen to me and would see me in a Bulls facility or at Bulls games and say, I heard you last night. And I'd say, yeah, you heard me? She goes, you're right. You're right about the Bulls. They need to play better. Gar's got to be better. I mean, she would agree with what I would say. And of course, if Gar's wife agrees with me, then Gar had to get along with me. So we actually had a pretty good relationship. Me and John Paxson, we did not get along at all. Not at all. He would hear me bellowing about the Chicago Bulls in the hallways of the United Center, and he hated the shit I used to say. You know why? Because it was the truth. Yeah, 60s kid jumps in. He just says, yeah, 3 years too late. Once Lonzo, DeMar, Zach, that trio failed, it should have ended there. Yeah, absolutely. The narrative in the Arturas Karnisovas, Marc Eversley regime was that, Lonzo was hurt, so that's why the Bulls couldn't get to where they need to be. Like, it was just one player. Lonzo Ball was a linchpin for all of that. It's just not true. Like, it would have been nice for him to be healthy and available, but to use it as a crutch, I don't believe that. DeMar DeRozan's a good player. He's still playing well in this league, just on a shitty team, he and Zach. And how ironic is that they want to get away from each other because they were so different, Zach and DeMar, and end up being with the Sacramento Kings. And so it's still this whole thing of DeMar doing his half-court, stuff, and then Zach with his run-and-gun style. It didn't work in Chicago. It's not working in Sacramento. So 60s kid, you're completely right about that. So, yeah, that's it, man. That is it. Here's Hey Now. How about this one? Hey Now 2025 says this is a PR strategy to keep season ticket sales. They do this every 5 years. Everyone was fanboy number one when AK was hired. When you say everyone, is that you mean on your block? Do you mean in your text messages? Do you mean in your emails? Because this guy was not a fanboy when Arturas Karnisovas was hired. I knew that Arturas Karnisovas did not have the experience to be in this position with the Chicago Bulls, and I said it on the air with Cap. I said, the third man in the Denver Nuggets organization. I said maybe as an international scout or maybe in the front office does that, but as far as leading the team, I was not a fan of that. Absolutely not. One of the things that he did that was a big mistake is that instead of getting Tyrese Halliburton, he gives us Patrick Williams. How's Patrick Williams working out for the Chicago Bulls? You guys watching Bulls games? How's Patrick Williams doing? This was a 6-man for the Florida State Seminoles when he played. And they just liked, the project of Patrick Williams versus having something that was a real deal in that draft. Go back and look at that draft. Look how many players the Bulls could have taken, but they took the project instead. The Bulls didn't have the infrastructure to work with Patrick Williams. And now when he's on the floor, he's a 6-man of a 5-man rotation for the Chicago Bulls, meaning that he's not even in the offense. He just stands in the corner or is shy about being aggressive going to the hole. He'll never be a star in the NBA. Never. So I was not a guy that was a fan of that choice. Maybe as a scout, but as far as like the head man, absolutely not. Cindy Brown checks in and Sid says that AK and Eversley should have been fired after last season. The Bulls would be in a better position as far as their draft position now. Yeah, because now there's a direction. But see, the thing about Billy Donovan, Billy did not want to deal with a team that's tanking. Billy Donovan came from Oklahoma City and thought, okay, now I can be able to work on this Bulls situation. I'm paid handsomely. Let's see if we can go in the right direction. And there was no direction. There wasn't a good enough direction for the Bulls to be able to be a perennial playoff team. Perennial play-in team, yes. Playoff team, no. And so Sid makes a great point about that. How about this? How about that? That's a big statement from Aaron. Aaron says guard packs were far more effective, and that is really sad. Think about this. Look at that picture. Aaron, if you want to screenshot that, go right ahead if you're still with us here on YouTube. Guard packs were far more effective, and that's really sad. Isn't that something? And again, Sam Smith was not part of that front office. Maybe. Maybe that was the case. Let's take a few more. What's up? Good to see you. D Vitamin 3. Good to see you. Tyrese Maxey would be a great Chicago Bull. That'd be a difference maker. That's a guy that can get up and down the floor. Yeah. Peter Burke says he wants Wemby when free agent hits. So do I. But you know that's not happening. It's amazing, right? Small market San Antonio. They always find a way to just churn out talent. We've gone from David Robinson to Tim Duncan, and now look at Wemby, something like we've never seen before in basketball. A guy who's legit 7'7" that can bring the ball up and initiate offense, dunk the basketball, obviously, a rim protector, a guy that can change shots because of his size and his length. Yeah, I would love that too. But again, that's possible if you have someone that can be able to preside over this team as a general manager and say, yeah, I'll have free agents come here. Yeah, where's that key free agent that's come to Chicago, by the way, over the years? That one that says, yep, Chicago is a destination. I want to be here forever. See? A lot has to change. As I close, let me just say this. There he is. Westside Dan. You've been with me for a long time, brother. No one's that old, but I guess you and I are that old. Thank you for your support over the years. What was I talking about? I was talking, as far as the perception of the Chicago Bulls. So there's a lot that cannot be done because Jerry Reinsdorf has presided over this organization for a long time. Like, I've said for years that it's a shame that Michael Jordan is not around Chicago more often, just to stop by. Like he's not going to be an ambassador helping people to their seats like an usher because he's Michael Jordan. And I know that he's very busy, but I think it's so unfortunate that Michael Jordan's not around the organization. It's sad, actually. His number hangs, it's his building, but there's a ring of honor. He doesn't even come to his ring of honor. So that there's damage there, right? Maybe that changes with new ownership, and for right now it's not happening. But because you cannot get some of the all-time great Bulls to come back and really celebrate being a Chicago Bull, then the next step is for you to handle the front office. The next step is for you to be able to have someone that can work on this organization and bring the fun and the winning back, the playoff winning, to be always in the mix, to at least be interesting. So I want that for the Chicago Bulls. It's a lot of stuff is damaged, and can you repair it? I think you can repair it at some point, but just not now because of ownership. But what you can do is that you can find the formula to win. Everyone can't win, even though a lot of teams have a chance to get in the playoffs in this NBA. But what I would tell you guys is that if I'm Michael Reinsdorf, I find the right guys. I find them. Not just I think they're going to be good. I think no, guys with skins on the wall. Guys that know what it's like to be part of a championship pedigree and then get it done. Find those guys and then get out of their way. The other stuff, you can't do anything about it at this point in time until ownership changes. As far as bringing some of the all-time greats back and for it to feel like how the Celtics feel when the old Celtics come, or when the Spurs are together, or when the Knicks are together, even though they haven't won anything since 1971, or when Golden State comes together, the Lakers, that kind of thing. It doesn't feel like family, the Bulls. It doesn't feel like the big family of those Bulls that are living, that wore the uniform. It doesn't feel like a family. It feels fractured. People are just Pippen's here, Horace is there, Michael's there, and just John Paxson's away from those things. It doesn't feel like the championship family like it once was. The closest thing to that was Tom Thibodeau coming back with that group to have Luol Deng and Joe Kim Noah and Derrick Rose. It felt like family there. But as far as the championships up in the rafters, those guys are not around. I think that's sad. Nothing you can do about that. Not right now. But today, should be a new day for the Chicago Bulls. You have to find the right people, and Michael Reinsdorf had to stand up like a man, his own man, away from his father, and put a new set of eyeballs in the organization. Wipe the crust out of your eyes and find a way to be able to be a better organization. That's what I would say. That's what I would say. I appreciate you guys checking out Under the Hood with Jonathan Hood. Thank you so much for your support for me and David Kaplan on the Cap and J Hood Morning Show, 6 to 9 a.m. Central on ESPN 1000 and on the ESPN Chicago app. I just had to come on to talk about something that is pretty significant in Chicago sports. Finally, the Bulls make a deal. They change the Arturas Karnisovas and Marc Eversley combination. They are gone. So now what's next? I hope the Bulls realize they have an opportunity to do something special here. These guys took advantage of Bulls fans. They took advantage of the money that they were making by doing nothing, very little, to really move the meter in Chicago. And so now it's time to be able to give the Bulls fan what they want, and that is the opportunity to watch the team be invested in the draft, be invested in the social media, be invested in the free agency, to do something that makes the Bulls interesting. Because at this time, nothing's happening with the Chicago Bulls. And the same thing with Billy Donovan as a head coach for the Chicago Bulls. He should be let go as well, or he should leave the organization. There's no reason for Billy Donovan to stay around the Chicago Bulls. Time to clean house, something new. Please like, share, subscribe, and comment to everything we do here on Under the Hood with Jonathan Hood, presented by the Advantage Dealer Group. We'll have more. Just keep locked in because we've got more videos and we've got more shows to come this week on Under the Hood with Jonathan Hood. So long, everybody.